you know how the greatest hits in North America is usually like that crappy white label for like PS3, PS4. In Latin America, they have a gold label at the top, and on the spine on the side, you make that spine alive by having it showcase some gold. And I love it so much. Think back to the time that we were kids. We would go to Toys R Us and see that large wall of video games for the N64 all the way to the PlayStation 2 and beyond. But we were kids. We did not have all of that expendable income to get those games. But now that we are adults and we have a little bit of that money, nothing makes us feel a lot better than by just buying a random bunch of video games that maybe we don't even play, but we put them up on our shelves and it makes us feel just that much better. So on another episode of A Cast of the Past, it is time, my friends, to share some of our favorite video game pickups of 2020. You can enjoy a brand new episode of this podcast each and every Sunday with yours truly, Juan Velas from Puerto Rico. Joining me from Boston, Massachusetts, we have Ryan McNulty. Now, Ryan, thinking back to January, let's go back to the very beginning of the year. Did you think you would get to retro collecting, not just tied to specifically video games, but retro collecting as a whole? Did you think you would go as deep into it as you have?
Definitely not. I've been into like game collecting. I've definitely been on the physical side of, buying the actual copy of the game. We had that popular video about digital versus physical games, and we were team physical on that.
Yeah.
And that was kind of where it stood. Now obviously I have PS3 is probably my biggest game library. And, I still very much like that system, but I wasn't really thinking too much retro. But there was something that kind of happened that really sparked everything underway. And I know, the pandemic has obviously been a time where everyone's at home. So a lot of those kind of hobbies like collecting has really, really picked up. But for me, it was just finding a good deal for an N64 at a yard sale. I was able to get that and a copy of Ocarina of Time, and then I was pretty much off to the races from there.
I think that's what usually happens. It's one of those things that once you get that first thing, you got to keep going because you have the console. So it's like, oh, I got Ocarina, but maybe I get GoldenEye, maybe I get Blast Cores and things like that. And for everybody watching and listening, at the end of the episode, we're actually going to be sharing some of the people on the Discord. They shared some of their favorite pickups for 2020, and whether it be on Twitter, A Cast of the Past, youtube.com/A Cast of the Past, or even on Facebook, same thing. Please feel free to share some of your favorite picks. And if you enjoy the podcast, you know what you got to do. The 5 stars makes Keith feel that much better because Keith did not want to have anything to do with this episode. I mean, actually, he's just not part of this agenda, but he's not that physical game collector. We are. So, Ryan, when you think about the things that you picked up this year, what would be the first thing you would love for all of us to know that, Ryan, you got that in your collection?
So this one is more of one that I think people just don't talk about enough, but is really a fun game. And the Lego series, don't sleep on the Lego series. There's some really good gems in here. So this one is Lego Indiana Jones, the original adventures. There is a second one, honestly, but I wasn't a huge fan of it, but this is one I played with my buddy back in the day, and one of the few games that I've ever 100% completed, and it was that much fun that we were motivated to literally do everything you can in the game. Now, this one I came across from this huge game haul that I happened to get. My girlfriend is part of this local group where if someone is looking to get rid of something or sell something within the same town, they post it. And this woman was cleaning up her house. She found her son's old game collection. I don't know if he's just off at college or he moved out, but she wasn't even looking to sell it. She was literally just looking to get rid of it. So my girlfriend, knowing that I'm game collecting, jumped on it, and I ended up getting I want to say 30 games. It was for something around there, maybe even more. If you want to check that video out, just go to my personal channel, gameessays.com, and you can see every single game. But this was one of the games I got in there, which I had already kind of had my eye on towards picking up, and then happened to come across it here. So yeah, Lego and Indiana Jones. I'm a huge fan of the movie trilogy. It's one of my favorite movie series ever. And I think they did a great job of doing kind of the family-friendly edition of the game. And it really retells all of the original 3 movies. So if you're a big fan of Indiana Jones, or even like stuff like Uncharted, and you want to play more of like a cartoonish version of that, it's definitely a great game to check out.
I hated you so much when you told me about that because I was watching your pickups, which people like, you got to check that out because it's like you didn't pay $1. So even if you paid $10, that haul was a steal, right? And you got a couple of games in there that I'm like, that goes for 15, that goes for 20, that goes for 30. And I love that it's in a diaper box. And I think those are the best pickups, right? It's because it's like not sold by a game reseller. Because otherwise that would never be the case, right?
Yeah. Interestingly, it was in these like baby wipes boxes that we actually use for our dog. So like we have a couple of those boxes lying around too. But nowadays, especially with like game collecting and just even the easiness of like eBay and, Facebook Marketplace, to be able to just, take a picture of something and say, hey, you can easily kind of find the value nowadays. It's not that hard. It's not like it used to be. It's much harder to kind of stumble upon, that yard sale where you see a complete inbox Ocarina of Time for $2. You don't see that anymore because most people are privy to internet prices and things like that, and you can, like, someone will know the value most likely. But not only that, it was just they were giving it away for free, so I'll likely never find anything like that again.
You peaked. It's a good thing that happened towards the end of the year, because if you had something like that in January, it's like, dude, you're not doing better than that.
Well, that's the thing is, ever since I've got this collection, I said, okay, let's put the brakes on, because I got enough games. And sure enough, I'm addicted to Pokemon cards now. So if there's a will, there's a way. I just found another addiction,
It happens. One thing is that, many people know, we've talked about this here. We're going to be talking about a very special Wii U HD edition of a game in the future. I love my Wii U. I got that just last year. It was summer 2019. And it's a bit unfortunate that now Wii U game hunting is sort of picking up. Last year, for context, Twilight Princess HD for Wii U was going for $40, and I was so sure that the price was going to drop that I never got it. Now, it starts at $60, so I'm like, the chances of it dropping are very slim to none. The prices of it going up may be higher.
If we do get that Switch release for Twilight Princess, the value will definitely go down. Yeah. Because when Mario 3D All-Stars came out, I started to see Mario Sunshine for GameCube started to really drop in price. So
Nintendo, get to it.
Yeah, and the thing is, obviously, I will get that Zelda collection no matter what, even though I have Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD. The thing is, the Wii U experience has its advantages that the Switch doesn't have. So it'll probably still, unlike Sunshine, where it's kind of like, why not just get the Switch version, except maybe like the whole analog controller thing. But for the most part, the Switch version's just as good. Whereas like the Wii U version will always have that unique advantage to it. So I'd say if you do see the value drop, if Zelda does come out with that
I'll probably
collection,
end up getting it for it.
Yeah, so definitely don't try to buy it now. I would just see what happens next year.
But my friend, I'm very happy because I've done an almost daily habit of going to eBay, and I have my key search terms, and then I go under newly listed, and I check out this. So for the video version, I am showcasing, for those in the audio for context, this is a boxed edition of Skylanders Superchargers for the Nintendo Wii U. I got it brand new with free shipping for just $20.
Factory sealed.
Yeah, it was factory sealed. It is open now. Because I'm a firm believer that you buy games to play them. The funny part is that I got it cheaper than the ones that were used because the used ones were going for about $35 with like $15 shipping and things like that. And I wanted to get that because Nintendo, with Skylanders is this whole Toys to Life thing. It started with Spyro's Adventure or something like that. And it's an action platformer where you need to place these different toys in the portal of power, and they're brought to life in the video game, and you can grind them up, like not actually kill them, like you level them up, that kind of grinding. You do the positive grinding, and it was very expensive. Toys to Life is no longer a thing, but Nintendo with the Wii and the Wii U versions did a couple of cool things. So I have here in my hand the Donkey Kong Skylander that came with a Supercharger. So it's an actual action platformer that you can play all of it as Donkey Kong. And I think that the platforming it's not the same as a Donkey Kong game, but it's almost like this unofficial sequel to it. And I'm seriously enjoying my time with it. Superchargers, it's basically the same formula as the other Skylanders, but they add vehicles to it. It's like land vehicles, air, and sea. Those parts they're not bad. They add to the experience, but I think that, if you're talking about something like Twilight Princess HD, that it may drop in price. I reap the benefits now of, like, a lot of these toys were $20, $10 when they came out. If you're patient and you look online, you can get a lot of them for like $4. Actually, one time, and this was last year, for Skylanders Swap Force, I went on Amazon and they had them like new for like $2 a pop. Dude, they were sealed. The problem is, like, there was like a crease at the top, like where the plastic is glued. So I guess they couldn't sell them as new. But I got all of those where it's like that would have cost easily over $100, and I got all of that for like what, $12? Did you ever get into Toys to Life?
I did not, but that's always nice where you're going to open them up anyway, so to get them for that price is a nice steal. And it seems like, I know Skylanders was really big for a while, so to come in kind of after the initial wave, like you're going to get great value. And if you're really in it for the gameplay and just getting a new experience and great content, that's like just a complete steal. It's all win from there.
No, exactly. And we have Skylanders. There's Disney's Infinity, which doesn't work as well because I know some servers were shut down. You talked about Indiana Jones, like Lego. There's Lego Dimensions, which when GameStop was closing down in Puerto Rico a couple of years ago, I got the starter pack. But that one pissed me off because they are so in your face about, like, hey, you need this. I'm like, okay, I'm done. But I'm really loving this Skylander, and it's definitely motivating me to getting the 3DS versions, because the 3DS versions, you can use the same Skylanders, but the actual games aren't the same. So it's kind of like double dipping. So hopefully I'll get that in the future. So my friend, what else do you have?
So this next one, continuing with the trend on my end with games based on movies, we have one that I haven't played in a long time. I only used to have the demo, but we're looking at some prequel stuff with Star Wars The Phantom Menace for PS1. I forget whether it was on a demo disc that I had, but somehow I had the demo to this game. And I played through the demo a bunch of times, and I always thought the gameplay was really fun. Keep in mind, I haven't really seen this game in basically, 20
Is it
years
like a
at
hack
this
and
point?
slash? I don't think I've ever played that.
I believe it is like a third-person action game. I can show the back here a little bit. You can see for those on the video version.
I see Anakin.
But yes, it's like third-person lightsaber action. I know I believe you play as Obi-Wan and maybe Qui-Gon Jinn at times. It's been a very long time, but I do have fond memories of like playing the demo and always wanting to play more. So this is kind of like one of those reclaim your childhood moments where it's like, I'm finally going to get the full game, and I will play through this at some point. And just the whole memeing, like the memes of the prequels has really become a thing. So it's kind of made me like appreciate the prequels in their own kind of like funny way. Like it's now gotten to the point where it's like they're so bad they're good in a way, where except Revenge of the Sith is legit good. But yeah, there's just something fun about the prequels now. And yeah, I love collecting PS1 games now. It's just like I don't have many right now. I only got like 3, but like PS1 is a system I owned as a kid, but didn't really get into too much. I didn't tackle enough. So Tony Hawk was like the main thing I focused on. And like I said, a couple other games. So I'm really excited to jump into this one at some point, and kind of experience it and actually see what the full game is all about.
Oh man, I almost died there. I'm looking forward to getting your feedback about that because I'm a pretty big fan of playing games based on movies. Like I have, we talked about Terminator Dark Fate. We finally reviewed all 6 of them. I have a Terminator game on PS2 that's like super average, but I always love to see these adaptations. Like I played the Bad Boys game on PS2, once again, still bad. And the other thing I wanted to show here, so this is a very different type of pickup because it's not necessarily about the game itself. Did you know, Mr. McNulty, that all PlayStation 3s, with the exception of like literally 3 games, they are all region free?
I didn't know that, actually.
Oh, that's a dangerous thing to know about, huh? So I got this. For those not on the video version, I got a Greatest Hits edition of Killzone 3, brand new, sealed for $750. What makes it unique? This is the Latin America Favoritos, which is favorites label. So you know how the Greatest Hits in North America is usually like that crappy white label for like PS3, PS4. In Latin America, they have a gold label at the top, and on the spine on the side, you make that spine alive by having it showcase some gold. And I love it so much. I think it looks better than the traditional PlayStation 3 box
on that one.
I couldn't help myself. We love DDP, man. And did you know that like there are different variations of the Greatest Hits? I didn't even know that. I was just searching on eBay, and then I'm like, wait a minute, why is there like a gold version of this? And I legit bought Killzone 3 because fortunately I only had 2. The other ones that the seller was selling, which is what the seller does, right? They were all games I already had. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'll get Killzone 3 so I can add it to my collection.
Yeah, that is the whole Greatest Hits or that type of collection. That's always like kind of a contention for people who have like a game shelf because it always throws things off.
The spine. Yeah,
the spine, the color of the spine will always throw your collection off. Or when they change things, like PlayStation 3 had a different look early in the lifespan for the spine than it did like later in the lifespan. Yeah, there's multiple different looks. So your PS3 shelf's going to look all over the place. But when you get that gold, that's pretty damn nice. That looks really slick, and I wouldn't mind having a couple of those scattered throughout my PS3 lineup, because I must have one behind me somewhere. I forget what the regular Greatest Hits looks like for PS3. I know the PS4 ones are red, so I have a bunch of like red PS4 games behind me because I picked up a bunch from like the Greatest Hits. But I don't know why they only did one in gold. Like that looks so much better.
Yeah, that looks
than
it's
so
one of the
many
rare
of the other
situations
collection
where it
things
looks
I've seen.
better than the main version. And actually, like, I'm surprised you haven't done this because you're a big Silent Hill fan. A lot of people, you know how the Greatest Hits boxes on PS3, they're red. People actually they buy lots of those and they put the horror games in those boxes. So it's like all the horror games in their collection have that red label, and I'm like, oh, that's smart. So Ryan, I'm just throwing
something
you an
to
idea
keep in
out
mind.
there.
Something to keep in mind.
Exactly. So what else you got for us, man?
Well, speaking of Silent Hill, we do have here the PS1 Silent Hill, and I already showed this one off on our Silent Hill 1 episode. And like I said, these aren't cheap. The prices have really skyrocketed. I'm like 3 years too late on buying these. It's in pretty good condition. It's not perfect. It is a little beat up. The manual, there's a sticker in here that I'm not going to remove because it's probably only going to make the manual worse. But otherwise, the manual is a little beat up on the front, and I'm like too afraid to take it out. I've taken it out once, but the way that it's kind of put in these like jewel cases, it's very easy to like damage it by taking it out because you get these like little things that kind of keep it in. So that's just one of my Silent Hill pickups. And like I said, that was like $70, which for right now is actually a good price, complete with everything. A lot of times you'll find just the disc for like $60. And then I already had Silent Hill 2. So that one I got at GameStop years ago for like $15. Thank God I did, because that's also expensive now. But I also have here Silent Hill 3 for PS2, not the greatest hits edition, the OG version.
Nice.
And not only that, of course, it has the manual inside. I'm like bad at angling.
Ryan, say it. Say it. That what?
CIB, because not only is there the standard game disc, but there is also a soundtrack.
Ooh, I didn't know about that. No.
Yeah. I have both here. I am so bad at angling, it's unbelievable.
You got it, man. You got it.
So the front one is the soundtrack here. Anyway, that was not cheap. That was over $100.
So what's like your next Silent Hill pickup? Maybe not for this year, but is there anything that you're really looking at that you don't have yet?
Yeah, there's 2 games I don't have. Now, I also did pick up Silent Hill Downpour for PS3 along with Homecoming. So those are both on PS3. Those were relatively cheap. And then I also got Shattered Memories for relatively cheap for the Wii. There's 2 missing that I don't have, and those are Silent Hill Origins, which was a PSP game and a PS2 port. And that's going for like $100 right now, and I don't like the game enough to justify spending that much money.
That's the worst part, when you want to collect like a whole series, but you eventually got to get to the bad stuff.
Yeah, and then Silent Hill 4, which is also a game I'm not a fan of, is going for like $100. Now, I think Silent Hill 4 is better than Origins in some way. I don't know. They have their both things I don't like about them. Yeah, those are both just too expensive right now. There is an Xbox version of Silent Hill 4. And I'm like, do I want to get the Xbox version? But I'm like, I kind of want the complete PlayStation. You know what I mean? I want PS1, PS2, all editions, You know what I mean? Doesn't it feel weird? Like,
yeah.
How would you feel? Like if you had all of one series as a PS2 or PS3, and then you had the one like
I
Xbox
have the same
version?
thing with the wrestling games, because I mean, you were around in that time. I collect wrestling games, and I have PS1, PS2, PS3. PS3 stopped working, so I switched to 360. I go back to PS3, and it's like I have all of the games, like technically, right? If I go by year, but then there's like 2 years that it's 360, and I'm like, no, I gotta fix that, man. That should be illegal.
So did you buy the PS2 or PS3 versions?
I've done worse. So I've tried to buy the Wii versions, which are not even the same games. Yeah. So it's like I have WWE 12 for PS3 and for Wii, but I still don't have the 360 version because I'm a cheapskate.
But you want it.
But I want it. No, right. I don't want it. I need it, man.
Oh, yeah.
I need it in my collection.
Yeah, I think that is a thing where it's just like, if I had like the full thing of Silent Hill and there's that one green box, I'd be like, I have the collection, but that bothers me so much, No.
Okay. Tell me if this happens to you, because maybe there's a scenario where you end up getting the greatest hits version, and you kind of come to terms with it, but then you're like, oh, wait a minute, there's greatest hits versions of the other games as well. So do I go down that route?
I'll like the greatest hits I'll excuse, although I'm not gonna lie, I have Uncharted 1, 2, 3 all as the normal boxes, and then my Uncharted 4 is a greatest hits, and it does slightly annoy me, but I can sleep at night. I can sleep at night with that. It's if it's all for the same system, I can live with it. But yeah, I think if you have that one outlier, that definitely would annoy me.
Yeah. Okay. So This one that I wanted to bring up initially, I don't think it was even going to come out this year. I played this game digitally when I was subscribed to Xbox Game Pass, and I don't do a lot of stuff with limited run games. For those that don't know, limited run games is a place that does limited runs of games. That's what they do.
Wow.
And yeah, Ryan, it's amazing. But they do a lot of special editions, and I do have a couple of them. But usually it's for like indie games that get a physical release, because they usually wait until the final version of the game or like close to final, so you don't have to get a lot of patches. My wife is a huge fan of Streets of Rage 2, so once we found out that there was going to be a limited run version of it, we're like, we got to get it, because I'm going to be showing it on screen here. First, you get a nice slip cover, so you get that package, but then the limited run comes with an actual recreation of the Sega Genesis plastic boxes. And
it's really nice.
And the cool thing, man, is that it's two-sided. So right now, at least for the Vita version, it looks like a Mega Drive game based on the European region.
Yep.
But then you can flip this, and it's like a more traditional Switch one. But wait, there's more. This is like, anybody that is opposed to physical game media, this is maybe the most insulting package ever, and here's why. So you get one box, okay, Ryan? We're up to one box, but then inside that box, Ryan, what do you think is in that box? What do you think? Could we have another box?
Is there potentially another box inside the box?
There's another box. There's
your standard. There's
a standard Switch cartridge box, right? So that's the smaller one. So that way, if you want to place it with the rest of your games, that's traditional. So then you think like, okay, man, we got two boxes, we're good. Ryan, do you think
there another box?
Do you think they did?
How do they do it, Juan?
I don't know, man. I can't even take the box out. But inside of it is a steelbook box, which like, there is no reason.
It's a little unnecessary. That's where you're kind of pushing it a little bit.
Yeah, but the thing is, the steelbook looks so damn good that you kind of get over it. It's beautiful. It's freaking beautiful.
Kind of reminds me of like an 80s movie, like VHS kind of
exactly.
cover.
So like my wife usually has one of these boxes in her office. I have one in mine, and then we have the large box in the game room. So it's like,
well, because what I was gonna say is what I appreciate about the everything outside the steelbook, because that's when they're just like they just
you went too far,
crazy,
man.
Is it's nice that you have the regular Switch game case that you can put with your Switch collection, but then you have the bigger box that like works great for like the top of your shelf or something like that. It's a great like decorative piece to have. You know, because it is like, I could see where if you just had that big box and you had it at the top of your shelf, you know, when someone's looking through your Switch library, they're not going to like see that game there. So even though it's all of this is completely redundant, I totally get it and I like it. Steelbooks, it's like, I think they look and feel really cool. I used to have the Halo 2 Steelbook back in the day. But for a game shelf, I feel like it does stick out a little bit. I don't know. How do you feel about them?
Yeah, I don't tend to get a lot of collector's editions that are outside the traditional size because, I mean, look at this in comparison to a Switch box, right? Like, this is easily 4 to 5 times the size. So unless you have a collector's section, right, with like a lot of limited edition stuff, it just messes the whole thing up. Even, you know, I have 2 video game collections. So I have the one in my office, which is mostly like Wii U and PS3. But then on the other side, and I got to go like, okay, so I have Shantae and this one. I have 2 limited editions that are way larger than the other ones. And this is like the definition of a first world problem, right? It's like, oh no, I have all these boxes that I can't quite put together. But they do annoy me. And usually the content inside the collector edition aren't really justifiable because it's like you know, this has a soundtrack. I'm like, guess what? I have a thing called Spotify. The entire soundtrack is in there. With collector's edition, is there ever a situation that you're like, oh, I gotta get it because it comes with this, like something unique about it?
Yeah, there's only one time. I've gotten a few collector's editions. There's only one time where it's like, oh, I want that. And that was the Skyward Sword collector's edition, because not only did it come with a soundtrack for the game, which was great, and I ended up losing because I left it in my old car when I traded it in to get my new car.
No.
But it's whatever. I mean, who uses CDs anymore for music? So it just annoys me that I get that missing piece in my case now.
The missing link.
Yeah. That's neither here nor there. It was mainly because you got a gold Triforce like Wii remote that came with the game, and it's like that just looked incredible, and it had the Wii Motion Plus built in. I was like, that was the easiest collector's edition of my life. Nowadays for collector's edition, I'm kind of coming up with like the whole sealed product becoming like this big thing now. My idea is for especially things like Nintendo, my new strategy might be, okay, let's say Breath of the Wild 2 has a collector's edition. I might buy the collector's edition, leave it sealed, and then just buy the regular game and play that, and then just let that appreciate. That kind of might be my new thing, is because anything that comes in a cardboard box that's sealed, I don't know if it gives you the same feeling, but if you see like an old N64 game like still factory sealed, you're just
so good.
It's
so
like
good.
it's just this incredible thing that you're like, that has sat there for 20 years.
Same thing with Game Boy and Game Boy Color.
Oh yeah, any game that, like, we're talking any video game that came in like a cardboard box that is still in pristine condition is just like, that impresses me. Yeah.
It's sexy, man. It's sexy.
Like, to even have this, like, A Link to the Past that I have, it's beat up, but to still have the box, like, really means something.
No, absolutely, man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, I will cut, or I can do one. I can do two, but I'll go real quick on one. So we can each do our last two. Okay. Okay, so going through my last two pickups here. One is a game called Lost in Shadow for the Nintendo Wii. So the Wii is a system that I owned. You know, we just talked about Skyward Sword. I literally got it to play Skyward Sword. So it's kind of one I'm going back through and saying, like, what have I missed? There's some hidden gems here. And one, I know you're a big fan of Metal Jesus. I saw a Wii hidden gems video, and this was one of them. And it really caught my eye because it's basically it's like a platformer where you are the shadow and you're manipulating regular objects so that the light kind of creates a different shadow to create a path. So I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but the gameplay I saw made this look really, really cool. So I'm excited to, play this and potentially share my feedback in the future. But that is definitely one I'm excited to check out. And then lastly, you know me, Silent Hill, we got Zelda. This is Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. Now it looks like it's in like a Blockbuster case. I did get a custom case for it. And I've done this with Ocarina of Time and a few Super Nintendo games. But I thought these look really cool. I got these from Retro Game Cases, but there is actually a game inside because I did mention that I got N64 finally, re-got an N64, and I do have the special like holographic version of Majora's Mask. It's so cool. I got this pretty cheap for around like $42, which is really good. Most of the time you have to pay about $60 to get something like that. So I am super happy to get that, and like I do want to protect my Super Nintendo and N64 games a little more, so that's why I'm getting those cases. But though that is definitely one of my favorite pickups.
I'm happy you got that with like a plastic case. I'm doing the same thing with my wrestling games because I have a lot of them, and I currently have some of those plastic cases for WCW, NW Revenge, WrestleMania 2000, No Mercy. So for like the key games that I want to showcase, because it's like if you just put one cartridge there, it's kind of weird, but I like having that box.
especially N64 because there's no N labels. I think the custom case really, really works well. Now, I did mention on the Discord quickly, I did find a site that makes the original cardboard, like reproduces them.
How much are we talking about, though?
They look like they're about $12 a piece, but if you get a bundle, you'll get them cheaper. So if you get 3, they're like $10 a piece, and if you get like 9, it gets even cheaper. And I'm telling you, dude, I think I gotta get Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow in those cardboard because just having
don't talk to me about this, man. Even you mentioned that, I'm like, because the thing is, people, okay,
I don't even own the games anymore. I just want the boxes.
You want the box.
You want the box.
That? No, and people, especially for like Game Boy Color, with the exception of like your Pokemon, a lot of those games aren't expensive without the case. So you can get a game for like $5, obviously without discounting Pokemon, and then you can get the case. So that would not be bad.
Yeah, get like a reproduced box. Yeah, for anyone curious, it looks like it was boxmygames.com. And if anyone has already purchased from there and they know, hey, thumbs up, thumbs down, let me know, definitely, because if not, I'm probably gonna try them out anyway because it looks really cool, and I ain't paying for the actual completed box. It's just it's a little out of my price range.
It's ridiculous, man. And in my case, it's not the exact same scenario as what you're mentioning, but before I got a lot into PS3 collecting, I got real deep into PS2. The problem is, PS2 games, they're either pretty inexpensive or they do go up in price, especially with games like, like your Ratchet and Clanks. There's a lot of them. So it's not $10 for all of those games, right? It's usually then like 40, 50, 60 bucks. And then some of them are not as reproduced. And many people forget that the PlayStation 3 has a lot of compilations where they took the PS2 games and they did an HD collection. And I thought that was cool. So want to be showcasing 2 things quickly here. The first one, I got this for $20, and it is going for an average of 25 to 30. It's the Jak and Daxter HD collection for PS3. And many people say this is the best version because there's one for the Vita. Apparently runs like crap. There's another version on PS4, and people say that one actually runs worse. So
wow.
This one includes the 3 Jak and Daxter games. It doesn't include Jak X, I think it is, which is like a racing game. Not that I really need it.
Yeah.
But I remember I played the first one, but I never bought it. I just rented it, and it's one of those things that you start renting other games and you kind of forget about it. And especially even for next year, I would love for us, whether it be Jak and Daxter or anything else, I want to get more into platformers that are not, Spyro, Mario, like your traditional things.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy with this.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning that when you picked that up, and I was actually starting to eye it because you're like, oh, it's, I found this pretty cheap. And then I came into that game hall and ended up getting the PS2 like copies of it. So I think I'll probably try those out for now. And if I like them, maybe I'll want to pick up the HD version, but definitely I probably otherwise would have picked it up.
Yeah, no, it's pretty great. And then the thing I wanted to mention quickly with this one is, okay, Ryan, like your haul in comparison to this, like mine is nothing now. But I went to this pawn shop that a couple of years ago, I got a PS2 game for just $1, and it's like a game that goes for 40 to 60 bucks, which is Champions Return to Arms. I went back to that pawn shop, Ryan, because I'm like, they got to have something. I go to the PS3 section, and they have a couple of things, and I'm thinking, they're got to be like $10 a pop. They're like, they're 4, but we're selling them for 3. And then as I'm looking, I see Tomb Raider Classics HD, but I see your European label. So for somehow in Puerto Rico, somebody bought the European version of the Tomb Raider games. And this is kind of a cheat because Tomb Raider Underworld is a PS3 game, okay? Like, we got to point that out. So this is a BS. And then Legend and Anniversary, this is their first release on the PS3, but they came out on 360. So it's one of those things that they kind of lump 3 games up, but calling it Classics HD is a little weird, right? But it's technically $1 a game. And because the PS3 is region free, I mean, I got Tomb Raider, Legend, Underworld, and Anniversary for $1 a piece. And this is going for 20 to 40 bucks on average. And I'm hoping I can get more collections like these. Like I was trying to get the Ratchet and Clank one, but that's going for 30 to 40, excluding the PS3 games, right? That actually came out for that. So I'm pretty happy with that. All things
don't
considered.
sleep on pawn shops and places like Savers. I happened to go to one the other day, and sure enough, I come across a Resident Evil 4 for the Wii, which I had already bought, but I picked it up anyway because my friend didn't have it, and I was like, it's $4. And then a couple other games, like there was a Just Dance game that my girlfriend wanted, but most of the time they're going to have like your Maddens from like 5 years ago.
FIFA, yeah.
But every once in a while, they do have something good there. So you got to check routinely.
Exactly. You got to make that part of the habit. And so before we have finished with our lists, we want to just quickly bring up 3 of your reactions. This comes to us from acasttothepast.com/Discord. We love our community. If you like this episode and this is your first time either listening to us or your first episode hearing pickups, we talk about pickups a lot on that Discord. And this one comes to us from Ace Bunny. He writes, oh boy, I got so many games that I bought this year, mainly for Wii U and the GameCube PAL set. And he mentioned specifically Zelda Twilight Princess and F-Zero GX. With GX, he mentions that was an enigma for me because I never understood why this game was so loved. So when I found it for €40 at a Republic, I don't know how to pronounce that. It was a revelation. He's in France, by the way. This game is molto bene. Wow, that's probably like horribly butchered. But a true effing fast racing arcade game at 60 FPS with a tone of a vehicle and a little bit of action. Thanks Sega and Amusement Vision to create one of the greatest GameCube games. Do you ever play?
I have not. I've never played. Actually, I played a little bit of the Super Nintendo F-Zero, I think. But isn't that it's a really expensive game to get, isn't it?
Because it's technically the GameCube.
Last. Yeah, GameCube games have really skyrocketed.
That's the thing to collect for right now, right?
Yeah.
Who would have thought? But
yeah, I think it's partly just Nintendo nostalgia plus just a lower supply maybe than other games. Like PS2, there's just a million copies of everything.
Plus those cases are so different. I think there's an appeal to them. Yeah, but that's like the last F-Zero game, as far as I know.
Yeah, we haven't got one.
And then this next one comes to us from Majora, who I can never pronounce the name properly, so please call me out, my friend. My favorite pickup this year was Shining Force 3 for the Sega Genesis. Did just get this one in today, though. Dune Battle for Arrakis. I think that's how you say it. This game holds a very special place for me. It was the first RTS game I played as a kid. I absolutely loved it. Makes sense. It was the first. It was Westwood Studios' first. They later went on to create the Command and Conquer series. Are you ever curious about Genesis collecting? Because Genesis, unlike Super Nintendo, they're plastic cases. So for collectors, it is a lot more accessible. But in my case, I wasn't really a Genesis kid growing up.
Yeah, I was not a Genesis kid either. I've always thought about like, oh, should I pick up a Genesis? Should I pick up a few games? It's always been in the back of my mind, but it just doesn't have the same nostalgia. And nostalgia is a powerful thing. I wouldn't rule it out, definitely, but it's just not something I'm really jumping to now. But the Dune, I know nothing about Dune. All I know is the covers of the books and whatever else material comes out always look so cool. There's just something really cool about it. Yet I know absolutely nothing other than I think there's a movie coming out too. But yeah, no, that's a really cool pickup. And yeah, Genesis was way ahead of its time with those plastic cases.
They really were. And the last one comes to us from Amy XOXO, who writes, for me, it is really different. I just got into collecting this year. I already played a lot of games, but never collected them. So when I saw really nice pictures of game rooms, I thought, this is damn sick. I want this also. So then I started buying stuff secondhand, and I started watching YouTube videos about other games and consoles, which I didn't have. But my favorite pickup is the Nintendo Switch that she got last week. Never thought I would like the Zelda games this much, but damn, Breath of the Wild is such an addictive game. And I want to transition that to you because you talked about a lot of pickups, but objectively your biggest pickup this year was the actual PlayStation 4 console, right?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I got in very late to PS4 because we already have PS5 out now, but I did get a PS4 Pro, and behind me, for those on video, there you could see all those blue tops. That's all the PS4 games I have. I've only really played through Last of Us and Last of Us 2. I did kind of I played a little bit of Sekiro until it kind of beat me into submission. I will come back to that game. And of course, we got Cyberpunk coming out in very, very short amount of time. So about 11 days as of this recording. So I'll definitely be checking that out. So that was like my big new pickup. And now it's already PS4 is becoming kind of old. But yeah, it's always nice to come in late because you get you get your money's worth. That's for sure. You can play all those games, get them real cheap, get all the greatest hits for like $20. So it's definitely recommended if you're trying to game on a budget. It's not always the best thing to do to be like right on the cusp and like getting a PS5. Like, just wait. It'll be give it a year. It'll be easy to just go into a store and pick up a PS5. Please don't overpay don't pay like $800.
Say no to scalpers, people.
Yeah. Don't encourage the scalpers.
Yeah, please don't. But I'm very happy with this, and this is probably going to be an annual tradition because as we get stuff, sometimes it's like I've really learned to cherish my video game collection. And even before we talked about this episode, I was looking at my shelf like, what am I proud of getting this year? And then it became of like, what do I want next year? I think we all go through phases, so it's going to be very interesting to see what's Ryan's trend for collecting next year. You know, what's going to be my trend? Because we are trendsetters. So people, if you enjoyed this episode, you can leave that 5-star review on your podcast apps of choice. Thank you to all of those beautiful people from the Discord. Once again, acasttothepast.com/Discord for being part of the conversation. Stay tuned because we talked about Wii U. We've talked about a couple of different things, and I think all of you are going to be very happy with one of the games that's going to give us closure for 2020 right here on another exciting episode of A Cast
to the
Past. And Keith, you added the audio version of this podcast. Man, he's probably cringing so hard because he'd just be like, so much plastic, man. So much plastic.